Welcome back to Data to Decisions. In the last couple of videos, we have been seeing how we can create dynamic column charts and also dynamic column charts which take into account the measure value and sort them ascending or descending. Now we'll continue this journey of column charts and making it more effective column charts. Let's take an example here. What you see here is the list of departments and the number of employees in each department. And since we have a lot more departments, like here we have 9, what happens is it's not one thing is the x-axis labels are not clearly visible. You can try to minimize the size of the font. But again, if you have more than 15 or whatever, then what do you do? The other case is you may end up with certain departments having very few employees. And in other cases, if you're talking about other data sets, this is very common if you long, list of products with very few sales, whereas most of the sales will be in a few products or few product categories. So in such cases, instead of having all this noise in your column chart, I think a better method would be to limit the number of columns. So in this video, we're going to see how we can dynamically limit the number of columns by letting the user control the cutoff or a threshold point. So let's say, for example, here, if I type in the value 10, any department with less than 10 employees will automatically go into the others category at the right side here. So this makes the chart a lot more easy to read. And since this is dynamic, you can accommodate any threshold value that the user decides to do. If I put 40, watch out for the accounting department, which is the second from the right. That should now become part of the others category. So this is how we can create a dynamic chart which responds to the user on the threshold and makes the dynamic column chart much more effective in its appearance. Now let's see in this video how we can accomplish this in Excel. Here we have a brand new worksheet with our raw data on the right side here. The first step we will do is to select all these values, Control T to convert it into a table and give it a name and then call it data. Now let's start with just understanding how many departments are there in my raw data. So I can do a count a function and I'm going to pass a distinct list of departments. So I'll use the unique function and I choose the data table square brackets, and then say department, close square brackets, close parenthesis, one more close parenthesis for the count, and now we get 9. So, okay, there are 9 departments in our data. So that means our column chart will have 9 columns, but in cases here, we want to limit the number of columns, right, dynamically. So the approach that I'm going to use here is first, find out the short list of departments which satisfy the criteria of the threshold. So I'm going to enter the threshold in the cell 10. I mean, the value is 10 right now, but it could be anything the user types in. We want the formula to accommodate this limit and give only the departments where the employee count is greater than or equal to 10. That's the first step. Let's do it. So I'm going to use the let function. And just to see the formulas more clearly, I'm going to open up the formula bar a little bit taller so we can see clearly. Okay. Alt enter to go into the new um, line. So I'm going to just type in departments. I'm giving the name of departments to the distinct list of department values that we have. This is the first one. Done. Comma, open, go to the new line, alt enter. And then I want to count if the range I'm going to check is my department in the data table, but I want to check for each of the unique or the distinct department names. So I'm going to close parenthesis, comma, go to the new line. So now what do I want this function to return? I want this to return. I'm going to use the filter function because we are filtering from the complete list of departments. I want only some departments. So I'm going to say filter the departments, which is we are referring back to the previous uh, value we have named as departments. So from the list of distinct departments, only include where the counts is greater than or equals this value. That's it. So now this result, let's try this. Close parenthesis. I have to also close the let function. So, so this gives me only six departments. Instead of nine, it gives me six. I can test this by putting the limit as zero, and now it should give me all the nine departments because all the departments counts will be greater than or equal to zero. So I get nine. Great. So this is exactly what we need. And so let's back the 10. So we have six. Now the next in this process is we want to call all other departments, which is not in this list, as others, right? So I'm going to do that by going to the our table, the raw data, and use a function. So let's do match first. I'm going to do a match of this accounting value, department value. Go and check in our shortlist, and don't forget to the hash, and then comma zero. I want an exact match, right? So what happens here? Okay, I made a mistake. I should lock $C $7. So I should lock the cell reference. So this says I can find the accounting name in my shortlist. So accounting is there in the first place in our shortlist, and I go down. HR is not there. Care is not there. Finance is in the second place. So basically, anything that is not there is going to return me an error. That is important for us because now I can say is error and then close. So I'll show you what happens now. So is it an error? Is accounting not in the shortlist? That's false. And then I go HR, care, they are true. So clearly we can identify which ones are not in the short list. So now all we need to do is to say if this is true, which means it's not in the short list, then call it others. If it is in the short list, then use the same name. Don't change it. That's it. So now, as I scroll down, HR will be others, care will be others, but accounting will be accounting. This is the new department name. So give it a name that you would like. I'm calling it new department. That's it. So now we have to go back. Now that ends that portion of the steps. Now we go back to this, and now I just want the list of departments. So how do I get a list of departments which I can use in my chart? All I need is I want to make sure that it's still sorted. So I'm going to use this function here, copy from there, paste it here. I'm not going to use the filter. Okay, so I'll explain why. So the let function, I'm naming the departments as instead of the original department value, I need to go and say, now pull the data from the new department column. New department. Great. Now, what do I want the let function to return? Sort by, and I wanted to sort the departments, comma, counts. So sort departments based on the counts and which order. So I'm going to do descending because I want the top uh, high employee count departments to be there, and then others would be at the bottom, right? So I'm going to sort this again in this way. The others do not always have to be the last. I'll show you why. But let me finish this formula. Let's do the left. Okay. So now we have others at the bottom. Let me illustrate what I'm talking about by first counting the employees. This is straightforward. We've done this so many times. So count if in the department, new department column, count this value. Put hash, that gives me the value. Okay, great. So here there are six departments and then it puts the others as 13. What if I say my limit is 50? Now anything greater than 50, it will do this. Anything less than 50, it will do this. Still, others is at the bottom. Great. What if it's 60? Now what happens is others become the topmost category, which is not a good suggestion. This is just to illustrate that the order here doesn't always put others at the end. The limit measure that you choose dictates the final order. So if I put 20, and you can see that all these departments are there, and then others will summarize the remaining departments. There are 6 departments, and then remaining 3 are bucketed into 13. So everything is working exactly the way we want. Now it's just time to build our chart, and I'm not going to go into each of the steps very, very slowly on the creation of the charts because we have done that in the last couple of videos. So if you need some help there, please check out the previous videos. I'm going to still go through and quickly do that as part of this video so we can make sure that the chart works. So in order to create the chart, I'm going to select these values here, insert, go and select the cluster column, and I will use my template, which kind of displays differently in terms of appearance. So let me use that. And then in order for the connection from the chart to the data, I'm going to click on the cell D7, which is where the list of departments is. I'm going to go to formulas, define name. I'm going to call it department DPT, and then make sure that you put a hash here. I'm going to go here, do the same. I'm going to call it M, and then I'm going to put a hash here. So now that we have named it, I can right click on the chart, go to the series, remove everything here, and then call it M, and then go to the x-axis and remove everything here, and then call it yep, CPT. There we go. So now it is dynamic. So if I change this to 5, you will see now, basically others is at the second here, and it's over here. That may not be still better representation. Now it looks a lot better, and I can even do 40, which will now bucket counting into others. So clearly things are working the way we want it to work. This is that's this week's video. If you have any suggestions, please put the suggestions for new topics or other methods that you have done to create dynamic charts where you limit the number of columns so that the presentation is effective and not distracted by a lot of noise with too many columns in your column chart. Recommendation would be to keep it to 6 if possible. In some cases where you compare months, then 12 is okay, Jan through December. But otherwise, 6 or 7 would be the number that I would recommend to have in the column charts. I'll see you soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching.